Okay, so now it's being recorded. And so, as I said, I'm part of the pre-sales group, and I have had a brief association with Ixia actually. When I was in my consulting life prior to joining More for Apps, I was Oracle EBS consultant, implementing, upgrading, maintaining the applications. So briefly, I was at Ixia as part of the as part of Sierra Atlantic. Okay, so that's about me. Yeah, I've worked with Nagraj and a few of you others who might remember me. Okay, so what we are, this is what we do. Basically, where there is a lot of data input using, paper entry, and somebody has to go and enter a lot of data towards month end or mass data processing. We ease that by just connecting your Excel to Oracle eBusiness Suite. This is what we traditionally started as, and now we have diversified a little bit. We are starting to have automation solutions where you can scan. So far, it has just been rolled out to AP invoices, where you can scan your paper invoices and just do a screen scraper kind of technology, and it can, or OCR rather, optical character recognition, and it can generate the AP invoices directly using the Wizard as a mainstay or a backbone. And then we have also diversified into connecting with any application that runs on Oracle database. That's coming up soon through the application interface wizard. And you can pretty much make use of any custom loaders or custom APIs or your standard APIs or custom programs, and you can build a simple Excel interface into open up any table or API on Excel using the application interface wizard. So it's like a development platform. And we have also come up with a few mobile apps, mostly in the supply chain manufacturing area for WIP and for a few others like procurement, PO receiving, stock take, and a few of those areas. Product suite. Any questions? Feel free to chime in with any questions if you have any. Okay, so the end user wizards, these are what is our real, the main product line, so to speak. So those are the Excel based wizards, and they are, just plug and play. Take them off the shelf and download, and you're ready to integrate with your EBS and start using them to load your data. So these are pre-built for specific purposes. For example, for AP invoices, for bill of materials, for items. So the benefit they give is that these are highly productive. As you know, Excel is very flexible. You can do your formulae, you can do VLOOKUPs, you can do any of those summations or any kind of referential integrations, and then use that to generate your data. It's designed for your end users because it's Excel, so there's no training needed. And it's configured to your EBS setup in the sense that if you have your own defined DFFs and flex fields and all those definitions come automatically. These are automatically, imported into the Excel or into the wizard. The wizard knows about your flex field definition and everything. And of course, we understand the APIs in loading your BOM assemblies or your items or anything. So any problem with those, we interact with Oracle support. So we save you that and give you comprehensive support if any issues with the loading. Okay, so basically we just isolate you from the can of worms that is the programs, conversion programs and APIs and everything. Okay, so those are the wizards, and these are basically our end user wizards, Excel based, and as I said, they're purpose specific. So you have one wizard loader for each of these. So AP invoice loading is using one Excel workbook or a macro enabled workbook, which is called a wizard. We call them all wizards. Likewise, for supplier purchase orders, or if you talk about manufacturing and inventory, which is, I think, where most of you are focused on, we have one wizard for the items and item attributes and item definition, another for defining the item cost, the bill of material, assembly definition, which you are going to go through, and then likewise for each of these material transactions and routings. And this is our mobile apps footprint. Like I said, it's just so far only in these areas, but we are fast expanding based on market needs. And then we are also moving over to integrating with the cloud. Okay, so any questions, feel free to chime in, let me know. Stop me anytime. So as I said, these are flexible and configurable. You can build your own templates. For instance, if you are not working with, the reference designators or alternate BOMs and a lot of, many sections, especially in wizards like the item wizard. There are so many tabs and so many, different sections to define an item. So if you're not working with a specific section, for example, the service section or the order management section and item definition, you can easily remove them and build your own template just specifically built for your purpose, the sections you are updating. It's simple to install. All you need is, just compile a few packages on your database and have an XML servlet in the middle server layer, application server tier, and that's it. And then the best part is you can try it. We give a trial period, a free trial license, and you get complete functionality of the wizard. It could be for a week to start with, or we could extend it to 2 weeks, depending on your test cycle. And only when you're rest assured and convinced about it, then you can go ahead with the go, no go decision. Okay, and these are a few splattering of some of our customers, just more in the public eye, but there are a lot more that we have. Okay, so these parts are not so relevant, the rest of them. So let me move over to the BOM Wizard here. I've switched over to my Excel. I hope it's visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. So this is how it comes out of the box. When an end user wants to work with the Excel loader, which is a more for apps BOM Wizard, all you need to do is download this workbook, and your system administrator can provide you, because initial steps has to go through the DBA and the sysadmin, where they have to, set up a few packages and XML servlet and all that, and then they can provide this workbook, which is an XLSM. If you notice, it's a macro-enabled workbook. So there are inbuilt macros within this workbook, and that allows a few extra ribbons to come up here. So these are all the familiar ribbons that Excel provides, and then you get a few extra here, which is the BOM Wizard, Wizard Setup, and Downloader. And this is where all of our functionality is locked in all these ribbons and all the buttons therein. Okay. So even before you make the connection or start making any loading, you can start by just constructing your data. So if you notice, your layout is pretty intuitive. We start with, and this is true for most of our wizards, what we try to do is just mimic the corresponding form. So if you recall the BOM entry form, you have your assembly name and then the implementation date and some of the header level columns, your header level descriptive flex fields. So instead of having multiple tabs, button clicks, or small pop-ups here and there, we just lay them out all flat. So this is the header level, and then you get to your main where the component is defined. Again, here you could have your item sequence, and then you have your effective date from and to, and then WIP supply, which is in another tab, and check ATP. All of these, which are in different tabs, are all just laid out in one flat layout. And then we move on to the next section. So all of the sections that you use in BOM definition, substitute components, assignments, reference designators, you'll see that they're just laid out flat, one section after the other. And that makes it very conducive for mass loads, because you can define everything in one go and then just hit one upload and everything gets uploaded. So I'd already defined a few assembly items by these names using our item wizard. And I'm going to just define an assembly for it, an assembly definition. So you can construct your data beforehand, even when you don't have a connection. You can just define it under the right columns if you're familiar with what goes where. But that's not usually where people start, because it's a little, from the forms, it takes a little while to get used to a flat layout. So usually you might want to start out with a few forms which are provided on the wizard as well. And for that, you need to make a connection. So now let me go in and click on this About button here. And it brings up my connection window where I can map multiple instances. So these are all the URLs you would use on your browser window. Let me just open one up because I meant to do this. I was going to open up the instance also. So this is the URL that you would typically open up. You just have to go into the OS HTML link, and that's what you point on your connection window here. And you can give your alias name on the left. So likewise, you can have QA, dev, test. I mean, our instances are named a little odd, but you can have dev, test, QA, and production or whatever, and have the corresponding links here. Okay, and of course, it has to be installed on that instance in terms of the database package and the underlying servlet. As soon as that is done, and you point to the right instance, you're ready to connect your wizard to it. And that's all the end user needs, just this workbook, no other installation. So I'm going to connect to this instance called Rata, and I click on login. And if you, it should bring up the same logon page. If you have customized it, given it some Oracle skins and everything stays here. If you have your own logo, company logo, everything will come up the same, just like your sign-on page. You use the same credentials that you used to log on to your BOM, when you're logging in for your BOM responsibility. In this case, I went in as MFG, and then now the wizard authenticates. If you have access, what responsibilities are there? So only those are listed here. We use this for a lot of testing, so that's why you see so many, but you should only see your assigned responsibilities when you sign on with your username. And then you hit continue, and then now the wizard does another check that you indeed have access to the BOM assembly, modification form in edit mode, and only then it lets you get past this point. Otherwise, it will push you back and say that you don't have the right access. That's the security authentication layer. So it's as good as logging on to Oracle applications. No different. Okay. Let me just sign on the instance as well on the front end forms so that we can parallelly verify. This is not needed. People usually don't even open up the form layer at all. Just work totally on the wizard, because I don't know if I mentioned, but it's a two-way communication tool. Not only can it push data into EBS and into the BOM form, it can also extract from the form, or basically from the database. So anything you can retrieve on the form, you can pull it down here as well. So now we have made the connection. That window that came up in the end basically showed that you're connected and everything's there. Your license information comes up. Okay, and there are a few things here which the first-time system administrator might have to do in terms of entering the license key, assigning the valid users. So those are the first few steps you would do for the first-time user. But for the purpose of the end user, it should all be configured, and you can just close this and move on. And if you're an assigned user for the BOM Wizard, you should be able to just double-click and bring up a form. And as I said, that's only if you want the aid of like a form-like lookup or a list of values, if you need that to define your item attributes or your BOM attributes. Only then the components and all, if you don't have them off the top of your head, you can double-click anywhere, and it brings up a corresponding form, pretty much similar to what you would see on the Oracle forms front end. So you get a complete list of values if you are, not sure of what goes where. It even has a few, validations built in, like supplies type of operation pull is not allowed when it has routing. And I'm not familiar with that control, but anyway, if you have any controls, those should show up here as well, because it's going through the Oracle API layer. So anything that you do on the form, or except for personalizations, if you have a form personalization, that is not considered here at all. That is completely bypassed. But any other setups related constraints that you have should be respected from here. Any questions? Anything so far? If I need to slow down or anything, let me know.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Generally the item sequence is always 10, can we not repopulate that value into our form?
Repopulate. So yeah, you can. There should be a sequence, right? 10, 20 this way for the components.
No, I was asking about the operational.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you can pre-populate, and basically there's another little trick here. So I'm not sure if it is on the BOM Wizard, but most of our wizards have row number 10 as a default value. So if there is something going to be repetitive throughout the rows, then you can just put them on row number 10. And then if you leave it blank, so for example, if you put it here, it should default as 10 on everything where it is blank. And if you want something different, you can override by specifying it on that specific row. Yeah, so you can pre-populate, or you can just do a copy paste, just like Excel allows. So you can just do a copy and paste it across if that's going to be your constant value. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Sure. Okay, so I've done a little, mix and match. So there's implementation date. I've done a formula, just pointed it to today. And then there's a revision and components. And I'll talk about the new operation and all. That's only when you want to modify an existing BOM. That's when the new operation will be relevant. So you have your quantity per assembly, and all of that is pre-populated. But if you, as I said, if you want to know, if you don't have it off the top of your head, you can just double click and your supply type and everything gets a list of values. And you can use that to assign the values. Okay, and additionally, of course, you can, so let's say this is your BOM, and once you have one defined, you know that it's going to be the same across multiple, just have to change a few things here and there, and you're going to get new ones. Then all you can do is just copy them. So here I'm just replicating, and I know that this is going to be item 7. Again, I've done a referential lookup here to construct the item name also by just pointing to one central cell here. So I usually just across demos, I just change this and then I get a new item name basically. So that's how I'm doing this. You can use likewise any number of formulae, references, lookups, anything that Excel allows. Okay, so all I need to do is copy, paste, and define a new item. I can just change a few things, the components or anything that's going to change. And I have another BOM definition ready here. So I can just go in and say that this is going to be my component instead here. I can just do that. So any kind of copy, paste, and everything is allowed. Okay, so that's about constructing the data. And as I said, you don't have to bring up the form, but you can always have that as an option on the back of your mind. So let me go ahead and upload all of these. Okay, and so I'll just go in, and you can do upload selected. Basically, if you just want to upload items 2 and 3, you would just highlight it this way, point to the columns. Even if you do this much, it's fine. You can select those specific that you want to upload and say upload selected. Or if your sheet is a clean worksheet, you're starting afresh, it's easier to just upload all. So that's what I'll do now because I don't have any prior data or anything. So now as this happens, you can keep it in the background. You don't have to be looking at it, or you don't have to be on that window. It doesn't block out like many of the others or other integration tools. So it doesn't consume your PC. It just keeps happening in the background. So the first step it does is you can always go back and see what it's doing. So it does a validation first, as you can see, and then it submits all the data to the APIs. Okay, and then once everything looks good, it gets accepted and it gives you the status of bill of materials loaded. So the validation step essentially just checks at the wizard layer itself before calling the API or going into the EBS layer. It just checks on the wizard layer if things are, like date is valid format, if your columns are as per the list of values. And every time you make a connection, the list of values are refreshed. So it has a completely refreshed list of values for that session. It retains that list of values. So then it just authenticates against it in the validation stage. If anything is invalid, it'll just highlight that, not even submit it to the API. Okay, so it looks like I did not set up any case for failure. So everything went through. I can demonstrate some, typo or something and show how it rejects. Basically, the idea is that it doesn't stop the complete load. It just highlights the error and keeps going with the rest of the load. So you can just come back after you're done processing or you're done working on something else. You can basically come back and see some of them are accepted, some of them are errored, and you can look at the exact error as well. I can demonstrate that also. Maybe I'll set up something for fail in a minute or two. Yeah, go ahead.
We have an example that we want to work with, right, as part of this exercise?
Once Rachna is done, there are a couple of things we want to check, but we want her to finish and then
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
go.
Okay, let me just try to speed up. So basically now these are loaded.
Hi, excuse me, this is Liz. I do have a question. So you said the row 10 is a copy down row, so you would always start putting your data in row 11, correct?
That's right, yes. I'll have to double check if this is there in the latest. It doesn't seem to be on this. And many of our wizards have that functionality, and you'll see it as default values as a label here. And let me double check if that is there in the BOM wizard or not. But we can easily build that in if you need it, and it's not present on the BOM wizard. If you need that as a feature, we can easily integrate that if it's not in the latest version.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's just get going and do a few maintenance activities. So what you can do now is I can just do M1 and assembly. I can download and do any changes. That's one thing you can do. And I can download multiple. So let's say this is my item. Let me just do a copy. Yeah, I can do a formula copy, but it's easier to just do a value copy here. Let me just copy the values. And I can do one. I can download multiple basically. What I'm trying to do is, let's say I have a change on multiple BOMs. I can just list them this way, highlight all three, and then download using sheet data. So all of these criteria, whatever you've entered on these three rows, because these are the three rows I've selected. So all of the criteria is tried, matched, and everything is retrieved based on that. So on downloading, there is a feature that you can ignore past or end dated components in case it's a BOM that has gone through many changes and a lot of end dated lines. You can ignore them and say, I just want to retrieve the current or the current and future as of today. Okay, you can do that, or you can just say all if you want to see every single row. You can even have explosions, and you can define the level to which you want to explode. But for now, let's just download. Yeah, go ahead.
What's the maximum number of levels?
I think it's the same as Oracle. Is it 10 or something on the Oracle, or there's no limit? I can't remember what it is on the forms, but it's the same as on the.
Yeah, they're very long, many levels.
Ours are what, level 8?
Yeah, you can go to.
The profile option level, I think it's set as 20 for KSite. I think it allows even more than that.
Okay, yeah, it should be the same as your form setup.
So if you were to leave that field blank, would it just return all levels?
No, you would have to specify the level. It will just return the top level. And you have to click on explode when you do that. You have to input the number of levels and then click on explode instead of download. And then it will do a recursive kind of a download.
So you could put the maximum number of levels, and then if it doesn't quite reach that, that's okay. It won't say, no, you guessed wrong.
No, yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, it wouldn't. It'll just,
That's wrong. You believe it.
So it's just default to the maximum.
Okay, so here are the downloads. Now I can go and make any changes I want. So the first step for making any updates is always to download first so that you can see what it is, what the current values are. And then you can make any changes. Let's say you're changing the attributes it's required to ship and it has to be included on the shipping docs, or any other changes, even on DFFs, let's say. Let's say these are my assembly descriptive and I want to do some changes on some of the values, As long as these are part of your list of values and you've enabled the DFF, these should get loaded. Okay, but you always have to start with that. And even doing a revision. So let's say I want to define a new revision to this item and change the, change the implementation date for the second revision. I can even do that. So let's say I can just go to this. If I double click here, it brings up the revision tab on the form. I can say my new revision is B, and it's going to be effective 2018. Okay. And let's say the components are going to be the same. or you can make the changes here as and when. So here's your implementation date also changes to 2018. Okay, so these are the changes on this. I made some attribute changes on this one, included test, and on the first BOM which I downloaded, I made some changes on the attributes here by changing the flags, basically, the ship, include on ship docs, required to ship, and all of these. And if you want to assign a new operation, you would use this one, this column here, the new operation. So let's say all of this was 1 to start with, and I can just say 10 or 20 or whatever I want to do as the new operation sequence. Okay, or you could end date and end date also and put a new operation sequence. I can do an effectivity date 2 here and update that. So end date and one of them, let's say I'm just going to end date this as of 2020 or something. So I can do that here. So these are the basic everyday maintenance that you might do. So I'll just highlight these 3 where I've made the changes, and I can click on upload. There's only one mode, so this create and update are together. Okay. If I want to not create anything, if I'm just making updates, I can say update only, so that in accident I don't create a fresh new BOM or something. Usually I just do a create update both together while testing. And then there's a validate. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Is there a specific format that the cells should be? Should they be text or number? Or is it looking for text format?
Yeah, it should usually be, the wizard is set up to align it with your corresponding database, whatever the database has it as, character, numeric. So it's set up the same way. So specifically, you wouldn't be allowed to put a non-date kind of a format here. The wizard will error if you try to put a number here or a text in a number or something like that. So that would come back as errors.
Thank you.
And I could even try one error on one of these. I can say, or let's leave it out for now. I'll just highlight these 3 and upload. Okay, so if you want to see what happens in a batch when there is a little typo or something, we can just do that here. And I'll highlight these 3 for my updates and say upload selected. Okay, so one of them is trying to do a new, value must be number or something, it says. So that's how the errors come back. Let's see what they are. 2 of them rejected. Let's look at the errors. So this one created a new revision, B. And the final result you should look out for is accepted green, and that's a good sign. Now here it says the alternate for this routing does not exist in M1. So okay, so this one is basically complaining about this. This alternate was not valid. And then here this seems to be something, value must be numeric on cost of using a BOM routing assembly attribute 1. Okay, so looks like attribute 1 had some validation here. So let me just remove that and put it a numeric value and then try to process these through. So as you see that in a batch, if there are errors, it just keeps moving on with the rest of the batch. And then you can come back, fix your errors, just highlight these 2 and try to upload again. And usually when it's a validation error, that's like I said, even before calling the API, it was an error at the wizard level. It caught it at the wizard level and told you that this is not as per the list of values that it finds. The primary had a typo and then the attribute was not numeric on the other one. Okay, it still rejects this on cost of using, I'm not sure where it is pointing to. Oh, okay, this one again is not valid. Okay, so all of these should be numeric basically. Okay, and then it should be able to change the values and get accepted. The other thing you can do is commoning a BOM. So let's say I'm going to have M2, M3, and I think this is assigned to just 2 items. So let's say I'm going to common this BOM across different orgs. So I just pointed to the common assembly. I've already defined it in M1. I just pointed to that. And I can even point it to something totally unrelated. I just want to comment it to some pre-existing BOM AS189. This is a standard vision item, vision instance item Oracle has defined, pretty extensive BOM. So you can even point it there. Of course, I mean, business-wise, I think mostly you would just have the same item, so you can stick to that. But basically, you can point to any assembly to comment it from. So just list all your the new assemblies where you want to inherit the common assembly. Just list them here. So I can keep going. I have about 5 or 6 items that I've defined, so I can just keep going. So I have items.
Will allow you to comment a BOM using a different assembly?
Yes.
Like the prime.
Yeah, it is just like Oracle. So basically on the form, you can basically point to any assembly there, right? So you can do the same here. When you pull it up from the tools and pull up the common form, it allows you to just inherit from any list of values, any assembly. So.
And Rashna, if we want to comment into multiple orgs, then we go for CSV, or it has to be multiple rows?
It has to be multiple rows, like I've done here. Demo item 2, we have already defined here explicitly on M1. Now I want to comment it to M2, M3, M4, M5, so on. So I'll just list it this way. Item 2 for M2 and M3, both getting common to the same demo item 2 from M1. Likewise, demo item 1 under M2 and M3, or any number of inventory orgs can all point to the same. This is how I would comment it. And then I have nothing else on the rest of the columns. They're all blank. Okay, so I can just
also check to make sure that any item that any BOM that you're commenting, all of the items already exist in that particular inventory order.
Yes, they have to be. Yeah, and they have to have the assembly defined. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the beginning. So you don't, if you're just commenting BOMs, you don't have to have such an extensive and long template, even for the purpose we were doing. If you were not doing anything with operation assignments, reference designators, you can customize your template. You can get rid of all of these columns and make it into a more cut down sheet like we have done here. And you can have multiple sheets here. So you see a full sheet, upload sheet. There's a cut down if you want to just work with common BOMs and commoning assemblies to existing ones. You can even just cut it down to having 4 columns, 4 or 5 main columns. You don't even have to do your layout can be customized is what I'm trying to say. And even the sequence of columns doesn't matter. So you can have them in any sequence that you are used to or that works for you. That is maybe you might be copying from an existing in your business scenario. I know that you're doing a mass conversion, so you already might have an extract in a certain format, and you just want the ease of copy pasting from there. So you can perfectly well do that. So you get rid of this column, the new operation, and let's say in your thing, the component comes first. So you can just cut it off here and put it before the item sequence. All that can work. As long as you don't change the column labels, it knows what this points to back in the form or in the database. So if you leave row number 9 unchanged, you can have it in any sequence. It's not sequentially. Yeah.
Row 8, does it matter?
Row 8, no, this you can use for your own, let's say DFFs and all. You might have your own custom column labels. You can use them. Change the column label.
Category. DFF.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a cut down. You can have multiple for your own purposes. So let's go ahead and upload these for the commoning. Okay. So just the same way, upload selected, and you should be able to comment it to those. Oh yeah, I didn't put the implementation date. I thought it should inherit. Okay.
See if you're making a lot of mistakes.
Okay, so we can do the same as put the date as today or formula. So this is how the error comes up. If you go to it, it'll say must be in a date format. And again, this was a validation layer error. Oops, I just said selected.
So to retry, you don't have to clear the error, huh? No.
No, you don't have to, yeah. If it is errored, it knows it has to just go and process again. If it was accepted, yeah, you can't re-push it into it because it will just say that it is already processed.
Okay.
Okay, so now this demo item 2 should be common to, if I download from, I can't remember if I can leave the inventory or code blank. Let me just do all and download. Yeah, this is mandatory, so you just have to. Now it should be present against 3, ideally, and it should reference. So I'm doing a download using sheet data, and I'll just highlight these 3. Now there's another download mechanism, which is via form, and that's essentially a search form. Typically, how you do it on Oracle, you have a flashlight icon and it pops up a search form. So similar to that, you can do a download via form, and this is the criteria you can use. So you have your organization, assembly from and to. You can do a wildcard and get a list of values, and a range can be defined. You can narrow down by revision, alternate, any of these, or even specific categories. And this is also useful where used, component where used, just like the standard functionality. You can leave the assembly names blank and just ask for a specific component occurring wherever it occurs. You can also check this and it'll bring up the entire bill of material. So where this component occurs and includes other components within that bill. You just don't want one component coming from every bill which you're searching for, but you also want the entire, the rest of the definition of the BOM, then you can check this. And then, as I said before, you can also exclude the end dated and, past components and just look for current or current and future as of a certain date, or you can look for all. Okay, and you can even include common bill of material components and cost type and all that. So these are the criteria you have on the search form, which comes up from download via form. But mostly people use the download using sheet data, which I'm doing now for these 3. And I can just say all here again. So it's downloading that, and if you notice, the common assembly is still referenced here, how we did the referential. And then in addition, it will have the component details also now, inheriting from the common BOM. So this way you can do multiple inventory orgs all in one go. And this should have all of its components and everything. Again, any changes, you can come in now and make any changes, end date, or do whatever you want on this, any updates. Okay, so let me just see if I've covered most of the things. So these are the capabilities in a nutshell, and then I'll open it up to any specific scenarios I think you had. So we did a create or update through mass entry, like a Excel list, or using the forms. And okay, there was one thing I didn't mention. If you have an engineering responsibility, you can go in with that, and then it actually points you to you can do an engineering prototype, and basically you can have an engineering items or engineering components can be used. I don't know if you use that, but you can have that also. And you can have all of these sections or remove the sections. You can even enter cost types and download assembly using full or partial search. Component where used, you can do that and explode assemblies to any number of detail levels. Okay, and then there is a downloader to define your own custom queries. This is a little bit more for the technically initiated. So let's say you want to download the download form or download via sheet was not good enough. You have some criteria of your own that you would, typically want to list BOMs, and your IT folks might have a select query, which would have given you that. So you can embed your SQL queries here, basically using the downloader. This requires some SQL knowledge, technical knowledge. So let's say these are the pre-existing queries defined. So basically you can have nested queries or simple queries for substitutes. And it's basically a select query. So what you would have done using maybe Toad or SQL Developer and generated an extract and, given it to your business users using, just a simple extract into Excel, you can just embed those kind of queries here, and your end users can just go in, reference this query, and download by any criteria you can give to any of these selected fields. You can go into this if you're interested, or you want to define your own custom criteria for downloads. It's just something you have. We can delve into it deeper if you need it. So that in a nutshell is most of what I had. Let me just check, because Nagaraj and I had a brief meeting last week and I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so there's something for delete group addition, which we had talked about as another scenario. So yeah, it's pretty easy. All you need to do is once you have downloaded it, I can just go to the assembly level delete group. Where was that? Let me see. It should be a column for component level as well as assembly level delete groups. So you just assign the delete group there. And if you don't find a column here on your worksheet, you can always go to the setup and bring up the edit template. If you click on this, it makes a template visible called template 123. It is not for loading data. It's just a complete list of columns available. So all you need to do, if you don't find something, let's say the attachment, if this is a section you need, you want to put your diagrams or any kind of engineering attachments, images, and you don't find the attachment section at all on your worksheet, so bring up the template 123. These are the columns, copy it, and you can just go back to your working sheet and paste it at the end. So like I said, all that really matters to the wizard is the, and you can insert it anywhere. All that matters really is the row number 9, and it tells the wizard where to map it to. So you can have new columns inserted like that from the template. Okay, you can just separate using this kind of a column for separation. So that way you can just extend your layout or anything. So I was talking about delete groups. This one has the delete group here. Now, if you don't remember the delete group, you can just look up using the list of values. I'll just double click. So let me go to something which we recently downloaded, and I'll look up the delete group values here. So I just double click now. It's fetching the list of values. So I can say August bill deletion or whatever. Okay, and then
does it show, on a delete group, does it have global versus?
You're not allowed to use this.
Or, yeah. Checking.
Yeah, so you cannot execute the delete. You have to go to EBS. We've kept that much control. We didn't want to give it. So there's no submission of the delete group. You have to go to EBS and bring up that delete group and submit that as a concurrent request. You cannot do that from here. You can just assign this assembly to the delete group here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then again, if you want that this column should not be available to certain users, you can always cut down their template, and it should have been assigned. So you can cut down the template, and you can even take off the setup sheet, because that's where you get extensibility into other columns is through the edit template. So if you set up the visibility of this setup ribbon to hide permanently and save a copy, then basically all the end user sees is the BOM Wizard ribbon and downloader if you want him to. Otherwise, you can just limit it to just the BOM Wizard, all of these buttons. So no extension to include more columns. So you can just have a cut down sheet for them. Okay, and then you can hide the template and just hide this ribbon and just give them the basic. So the template is now hidden. It's just a toggle switch, and then you can hide this permanently. So that is a way of controlling, that you don't want people to go in, add more columns and start working with something which is beyond their function. So you can control it that way. Okay, so we did all of this on the wizard itself while I had not logged in. So let me just pull up the delete group, because that is one thing we didn't provide on the wizard just for security purpose. We didn't allow submitting the delete group from here. Let me just log in again. Meanwhile, any other questions, scenarios? I think I don't have anything else which I discussed with Nagaraj and Deepak.
Right? I think the DFF was not getting updated, right? When we do an update. We have to do download and then change it.
Yeah, so we did that now. So if you recall, I made some changes and we can re-download and see. So it said first that it has to be numeric, and I changed it to numeric on this one. And let's see if it should have updated it to 20 on this one. So let's download it again. So that was a change we had made. Let me just re-download this. So basically, yeah, you have to start by downloading, then go in and update the values, whether it's DFF or any other column, and then you basically have to upload it back. Yeah, here also it doesn't seem to have accepted it. Yeah, maybe it's not as per the list of values here. Let me just double check. Or let's say it's a component level DFF, then you can, I think this is a regular value. So let me try to upload both the header level and the component level. So if there are any constraints, it's not as per list of values, or you cannot update it later, then the API wouldn't be able to do it either. Okay, it says accepted. Let's see if it made the changes. Yeah, so it's not doing on the header. I'll have to try to do it on the form. I'm pretty sure it's rejecting on the form also. There must be something, but here it accepted this. So probably it's not as per some criteria or some constraint on the form.
Was that the correct org, or was it common org? You'll have to do it where the master BOM exists, right?
Yes, you'll have to do that way. Yeah. Otherwise, it'll tell you that you cannot make changes if it is common from something else. Yeah. Anything else that I might have missed? Sorry, was there a question?
No.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get into the forms. Sometimes it takes quite some time here. On my instance, it's the same instance, but it seems to come up slow from the front end. And where are the delete groups? Oh, here they are. Okay, so let's just go to the delete groups window from the front end. And I can show how it has been assigned, but you basically have to submit the delete group from the front end forms. You can do that on the wizard. And it's easy actually, because many of our wizards have concurrent programs for submission from the wizard. We make it available like a concurrent program submission window, just like the SRS window, but we purposely haven't done it. But if you feel the need, we can make an enhancement pretty easy. Just for security reason, we didn't want to give it here to go all the way with the delete group. Just a security measure. Any other questions from anyone? Any scenarios that you see you might come across in this mass conversion, that immediate need that you have? And again, there is, while you're testing, usually if you go to the setup, and here there are some setup steps, and towards the end there is a user guide on helpful links. There's online documentation. If you click on this, it brings up the wizard lookup guide, kind of a reference guide. It's not like a flow of scenarios. It's not a business scenario or a test scenario document that you can just follow along for end-to-end scenarios, but it is just a reference guide. So whatever I talked about, upload, download, and all of these, we'll just list all of that as features here. You can look up anything on the left menu bar here and go to the specific feature for help. And if any issues, there is a support email ID. You can just shoot an email to support support team at moreforapps.com. I think Nagraj might have that. We've already been interacting. So you can route any issues that you come across to that email ID through your IT, and we can take it up. Anything else? I was just going to show the delete group. I can't remember where I assigned it. M1, I believe. M3, okay. So it's assigned on M3 onto the August bill. So let me select M3. Yeah, here it is. It is called August. And this got assigned here, but you have to go in here and do the delete group execution. Any other questions? Anything I missed? Nagraj, Deepak, or anyone else?
No. Yeah, as I said, we had a live example, but looks like you covered that in the demo. So
okay. Yep. Nagraj and Deepak did quite some work, groundwork beforehand in listing what might be relevant, so that helped.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then. So as a next step, you already have the trial license key and everything, right? So
Yes.
sorry?
You can get permanent licenses?
Yeah.
Talking to Nagaraj.
Yeah, it is in process.
Okay.
Nagraj, you've gotten past entering the license key, adding users and everything. You just have to add maintain users and put your usernames here who want to work with the BOM Wizard. Then they get access. So you would have to just do that as a one-time step.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let us know if you come up against any new scenarios, any issues, and I'll share this recording. I'll upload it somewhere and share this recording as well. And then you can try to get through some testing. I believe it's the license key for, I think it's 2 weeks, or I'm not sure how long it is, but it's already been shared, so you can start testing.